So, for listeners who have never heard the term before, what exactly is foodscape?
So foodscape is just it's like an edible landscape.
How is a foodscape different than a traditional backyard vegetable garden? If more neighborhoods embrace foodscaping, how do you think that would change the community? So, let's talk about soil quality and sunlight. They're super important for any garden, of course. And so, how can beginners figure out what their best setup is? What is something about growing food at home that completely surprises people?
I think it's the taste.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's a taste. I don't think people realize how nutrient dense and how flavorful the food that you grow is. And for women, it makes your nails really strong too.
Really?
Yes.
Welcome to the show, Ingrid.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Of course. We're going to talk a little bit about gardening today, beginner gardening and permaculture. And so, first, I want to find out what sparked your interest in edible landscaping and gardening.
Well, when I moved from New York down to Raleigh, discovered there's so much we could grow here. I mean, I always gardened. I was an avid gardener. Even in my grandmother's house in Norway, in Europe, they grow everything right out front, you know. And when we got our property here in Raleigh, we just kind of transformed it from a suburban lawn with like a bush and trees, and we completely transformed it into like an edible landscape. So it took years, but every part of our property is usable, and it's just a quarter acre. And there was so much that you can do on a quarter acre and so much you can grow. And we went to the local farmers market and we sold microgreens and other things. And it just kind of grew from there. And as I was leaving a job and I realized I've been in marketing for so long, and it's like, this is what I love to do. You know, there's so much you can do, and people don't realize how much you can grow in a very small space.
Yeah.
So I said, this is my future now.
Oh, good. So you followed your passion.
Right.
I read that too on your website, how when you were selling microgreens at the farmer's market, you were like, you know what? I love teaching people. Like, this is what I really like. So that's awesome that you followed your passion like that too.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I learned so much from people like other gardeners as well, that's the thing about gardeners. They all have great information, and they share freely, and always, here's some seeds, here's a plant, you know, that whole thing. So it's just it's nice being outside. It's nice getting my hands dirty, and it's nice showing people what's possible.
Yeah, I love too how you said that you did yours on a quarter acre, because a lot of people think like, oh, I don't have a lot of space. Like, this isn't for me. I can't do it. But you can actually maximize your space through it.
Yeah. Absolutely.
I love that. So for listeners who have never heard the term before, what exactly is foodscape?
So foodscape is just, it's like an edible landscape. You know, we're used to growing in raised beds, and that's fine. But there's so many other things like blueberry bushes and blackberry bushes and fruit trees and elderberry bushes. So all that can be planted in your landscape, and that becomes a foodscape or a food forest. There's people always talk about food forest.
Yeah.
That's another word, right? So, but foodscaping is just basically, instead of having, you know, grass and you know, azaleas and things, you know, bushes that we're used to seeing, which they have a place, but for foodscaping, you can do a raspberry bush or a blackberry bush, persimmons trees, you know, apple trees, which don't grow great here, but
yeah, that's more of a New York thing.
That's a New York thing.
I love that. Okay. So how is a foodscape different than a traditional backyard vegetable garden, other than like the raised beds?
Well, I mean, you can have raised beds in foodscaping, but it's more intentional as it's dotted throughout the landscape, as opposed to just having one little area. And that's what I grow. Although that's what I do. I don't expect everybody else to just completely rip out their lawn. Well, it would be nice, but
it would be nice.
I would like that, but I don't expect people to all do it. But yeah, so you can do it. You know, people would come. We would have these garden tours, and people would come and see what we did, and people are like, I can't do all that. But it's like, but I never thought of just sticking a raised bed on my front yard, because that's where the sun is. You know, so I think it's kind of just whatever you want to make it. You can have a backyard vegetable garden, and it's still like your own little foodscape. You might throw in like a blueberry bush. They do really well here. Almost everywhere they do well. There are certain trees that you can have that bear fruit that are native, like pawpaw trees. So there's, different ways that you can kind of integrate a foodscape into just your regular landscape.
Yeah, I love that too, that you say that about blueberry bushes, because for some reason, I don't know why, it's always seemed kind of intimidating to even get berry bushes, which is weird because it's not. But
No.
it always just felt like that to me.
Yeah, it's like that. And I think that's kind of what I'm trying to do with Ralstead Foodscapes, is kind of demystify and not make it so difficult, because
Yeah.
it feels like you need to know everything,
Right.
and you can't possibly know everything. Master gardeners don't know everything. I learned a lot just from being here, which was completely different, zone than I was used to for, my entire life. And I've been here like 12 years now. So I had to learn, like, oh, I wanted to put this in here. It's like, well, this doesn't grow well here.
Right.
Right.
So that's when I learned the importance of natives, because I was trying to grow stuff that I remembered in New York. And I was like, this is great. I love this. It's like, oh, it's not growing. It didn't come back.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think that's really important too, because like for us, it's a little bit overwhelming to think like, where do we even start? So you have to understand what is native to the area, what's resilient, right? So that we don't, it's a little bit easier to get going.
Right.
But I really love the idea of planting in the front yard with, going with the sun. But how do you deal with like HOA?
For us, when we were looking for a house, I was like, no HOAs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because we knew we wanted chickens. We knew we wanted solar panels. And we knew we wanted to garden. And for us, like when we were looking at houses, we were thinking about gardening in the backyard. That's just kind of what's ingrained into us, right?
Mm-hmm.
But the house that we bought was on the corner, and the sun was mostly in the front yard. So it's like, okay. So with HOAs, it depends on how strict they are. I just saw today that I believe it was Pennsylvania they enacted a law that HOAs can't prohibit you from planting natives.
Oh, wonderful.
That's good news.
So sometimes, like when one state has to do things like that, it just depends on what your HOA does.
Okay.
Yeah.
If it's better to have it in the backyard and it might involve removing a tree or something like that, then you might have to consider that. I know it's tough when you have those kind of restrictions.
Sure.
But like you can stick garlic bulbs in there, they're not going to know what it is. Or there's other things that are nice native plants that you can put in there that at least feed the pollinators and help the ecology and diversify everything from what is normally planted.
Right. Okay.
Right.
Great.
And I do have a quick question too that I was wondering, would you need less equipment for a foodscape than a regular traditional garden?
Yeah, you need a wheelbarrow. You need a shovel.
Yeah.
You need a pitchfork. These are things that just basic. Like we don't have any heavy equipment. So we would get wood chips from Chip Drop, which is a free service from arborists or tree services. They have to pay to get rid of their wood chips. And if you sign up with them, and you have to be able to take the entire load of trucks. So that could be like 13 yards of wood chips. It's a lot.
Yeah.
Right.
But they would dump it, and then we would use that on our garden. But so you need like a pitchfork and a wheelbarrow, and that's like things that I'm helping somebody now with coaching, and I was like, do you have a shovel? Do you have you need all these like just basic things like that, a trowel, something to get at weeds if you need to, things like that, but nothing particularly different.
Pretty basic.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's good to know. So if more neighborhoods embrace foodscaping, how do you think that would change the community?
Well, for instance, the strip of land right between the sidewalk and the street, the hell strip that when we got rid of our lawn, I didn't want to mow that anymore. So I just ripped everything out, and I started planting herbs and just things that would keep coming back, flowers, mint. And sometimes I would throw pepper plants in there. I would just dot stuff in there, and flowers that would come in the spring, and then other ones that would come in the fall, bunch of perennials. And for me, I told my neighbors, I'm like, listen, here's some rosemary here. And I would show them where everything was, because they weren't growing food and they couldn't grow food because it was too shady. But they would walk past and they, so I saw a neighbor that's like, I'm going to go get some. I'm like, you don't have to ask, just go get it.
Yeah.
So if more people did things like that, just diversifying their whole landscape is just a huge benefit.
Yeah.
Native plants, huge benefit. So besides just having food or having herbs, or having fruit, any kind of, veggies and stuff like that, it would be less running to the store for everything, or people might eat more in season. People don't think about where their food comes from.
Yeah, I know,
Yeah.
which if you really think about it, it's like crazy, isn't
Yeah.
it?
Yeah.
Like we're putting it in our body and we don't really know where half the stuff we eat comes from.
No, and how old it is.
Yeah.
I mean, think about it. So they have to grow food commercially to look good and to withstand transportation, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's why the tomatoes at the store don't taste anything like the tomatoes you grow, because they're just raised, they're hothouse raised, or they're raised differently because they have to look nice.
Right.
And people don't think about food miles.
Right.
Right.
I noticed too during strawberry season, which we're
Mhm.
almost here.
Yeah.
One thing I noticed is like the strawberries from the store, they're always like white inside,
Mhm.
but fresh strawberries are always red and juicy inside.
Yeah.
Like, oh, the difference is so there.
Yeah. I think tomatoes are probably the best example of the difference of growing things. But even like, for instance, like blueberries, we have this big blueberry bush and we have it out by our chickens. So it's constantly fertilized and it's huge. And the chickens love it, and they jump up and get blueberries, so they get all the bottom blueberries. Yeah, they've even learned how to jump up on things to make them higher, so they could get to.
I'd love to see a video of that.
I have a video.
Yeah.
In fact,
Okay.
Well,
Have to
I will
share
it.
Yes. I love that.
That's great.
The taste of the homegrown blueberries was amazing, and then my husband started. I was like, Sean, you have to try these, and now he's like militant with the blueberries. He's like, there's birds out there. I can't have the wild birds getting the blueberries.
Yeah.
Like, now he realizes how good they taste.
That's good. That was actually going to be one of my questions is like in a neighborhood like this, how do you stop animals, pests, anything from getting in?
You don't.
You just let it be.
I mean, so we have deer that just kind of roam the neighborhood,
Yeah.
like little packs of dogs at all times of the day.
And they can jump a fence.
And they can jump a fence, but I don't have a fence out front. So they're just like on our property. And we always said that we grew so much that we could share with the rabbits and the deer. Although we do protect things. So you can protect tomatoes and peppers and things like that with deer netting. Pests is that's a whole other thing. That's more of trying to have resilient plants and good soil and companion planting and beneficial insects and things like that. But, people always say, I can't plant. I have deer. It's like,
Deer everywhere.
They're deer everywhere.
Yeah, you can't win that battle.
Yeah, no.
Okay.
So you can protect them, like deer netting. There's other things. We use motion sensor sprinklers.
Oh.
That go on at night. So we have them set up, and if you pass by, noise startles them.
Yeah.
And it also keeps neighbors out of the yard.
That's brilliant.
Yes.
I did not know that even existed.
It's like,
I love
a
it.
low-key security system.
It is, because my neighbors will walk by and they'll trigger it like at dusk. And I'm like, sorry.
Yeah.
That's a really good idea.
I love it.
Yeah. So you can use like fishing line around there in like strategic places, because if they walk into something they can't see, they kind of back up.
Yeah.
But that also creates an obstacle for you. So you have to be concerned about that as well.
Mhm.
That makes sense. So speaking of knowing where your food comes from too, just going back to that for a second, a lot of people I feel like don't understand the benefits of organic. They're like, that's just something they label to charge us more or whatever.
Right.
But so what would you say is the difference between organic and regenerative?
Well, that's pretty much the same. Organic and regenerative.
That's what I thought. Okay.
Yeah. So regenerative is more of like a farming principle. So it's not tilling the soil like traditionally farmers would till soil, and they pull out weeds and they use pesticides and GMO crops and all that kind of stuff.
Right.
With regenerative agriculture, you don't do that, and you don't plant monoculture, so it's not like a cornfield. There's an amazing movie called Kiss the Ground, and it's all about regenerative farming and agriculture, and these farmers that were losing their crops year after year, and they were featured in this documentary, and they said that when they started like having more biodiverse crops, then when catastrophe came, like a flood or a hurricane, whatever it was, their crop still survived, and they didn't have just one crop to rely on. So that's kind of the principle behind regenerative farming. For organic just means you're not using the kind of pesticides that there are some organic certified pesticides, but you're not using pesticides, because do you want to put that in your body?
No.
You know what I mean?
Right.
No.
And it's unfortunate that we have to charge more, is because the process to get organic certified is so much greater and so costly for the farmers that it's hard for a lot of them to do that.
Right.
And it's just cheaper to produce food that's not organic.
Absolutely. When I go to the farmer's market, Most of the farmers too, depending on the farmers market, most of the farmers do go by organic practices. They just don't have the certification because of what you mentioned.
And that's the same thing that we do. Like we were selling for a short time, we were selling basically out of our front yard to our customers that we had when we sold microgreens, and we stopped selling there. And I remember distinctly somebody ordered bok choy, and she ended up writing me back. She's like, that had so many bug holes in it, I had to throw it out. I'm like, it just means it's organic. Like something's going to eat your crops.
Yeah.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's not like you're used to shop. This is not Whole Foods. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Right.
I literally, like, you were coming, you wanted this, and I cut it. Like, you can't get anything fresher than that.
Right.
Does it have a bug hole? Probably.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
It doesn't make it any less nutritious.
That's just the reality of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because if you're not seeing anything like that, then it's either completely covered and they have like a big farm that they can do this well. But if you're getting it from someone's front yard, chances are there's going to be something eating at it.
Exactly. And that's another thing that I heard about too, is even with some of the berries, like strawberries and raspberries, some of the commercial farmers, or I won't say farmers, but distributors, even to make it look so perfect in the grocery store, they actually dye red strawberries. And I'm like, what's the point of eating strawberries?
We've gotten so used to what the ideal food should look like, and that it's just not right.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So for somebody like us, where do we start?
Well, when we started, we just got 2 raised beds and we just stuck them in the bottom of our property. We just started with 2. And that's it. You know, so here in North Carolina, the soil's it's all red clay, right?
Yeah, I was going to ask about that.
Yeah. So we did raised beds. That's the best way to combat the red clay. I mean, you can make one, you can buy one. There's the metal beds, there's wooden beds. You know, there's people that do a combination of like galvanized steel and like roofing panels. And I have a bed like that. I have all sorts of beds.
Yeah.
You know, whatever you can do to start. And it's like, just start. So I always ask people, what do they eat? What does your family eat? A lot of. So do you eat salads? Like lettuce is super easy to grow. It's one of the easiest things to grow.
Oh, okay. I didn't even know that.
Yeah. And it starts from seed very easily. So it's not, I mean, you can get the little the little cell packs and stuff. That's like, anything that's like a small plant is considered a starter. So you can get that at the big box stores or nurseries at this time of year. And you can plant that, or you can buy seeds. They come up, lettuce seeds come up very quickly. And you can keep harvesting it. So you could harvest that all through the summer. It might bolt, like go to seed when it gets real hot. But you can also succession plant, which is starting it like 3 weeks later, start another row or start somewhere else.
So it lasts longer.
So you always have something fresh.
Yep.
Yeah.
And you can put something like lettuce seeds in a planter too, like in a big planter. You know, people put they buy all these like impatiens and all these different like flowers. I'm like, you could put lettuce in there.
Yeah.
Like put lettuce and like a rosemary plant or parsley. So like then at least you have something that you can harvest from and it's on your patio. So that's another thing. Like if you have an HOA, you can do things like that with patio plants or big planters and things like that.
I always see that with like tomatoes, right? That's what everybody's go-to would be on the deck in some kind of planter. For the raised beds, does the material you use really matter? Like, does anything seep off of that material into the soil or anything like that?
I mean, if you use pressure treated, there is leaching. They've done a lot with the wood now where that doesn't seem to be as much of a concern. But for us, we always used cedar when we did wood. Cedar is a very durable, pest resistant wood. Black locust is another one. Douglas fir, certain types of wood. There's other things you can do to protect the wood. There's like linseed oil, which will just seep in. There's Shou Sugi Ban, which is a Japanese method of burning the wood.
Okay. I've seen that just on videos.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
I've done that. I made a couple of benches and things like that. So I like to do some woodworking. So.
It's a cool look too.
Yeah.
So it's burning the wood?
So yeah, you take like a little blowtorch. It's fun too. There's something like cathartic about it.
Yeah.
We've got a little blowtorch in the garage. I can show you later. It's a lot of fun.
So you take it and you burn it, like you char it. And then you take a wire brush and just get rid of the char. And that keeps it actually makes it ironically fire resistant. that's why they use it on houses in Japan. Like that method, you'll see like these like black wooden houses, and it makes it fire resistant, and pest resistant, and it's a way of preserving it. So
that's great.
That's really, really cool. I had no idea about that. I love things like that.
Me too, because I was thinking about building a few boxes for the spring. I'm a little bit behind now, but I want to just go grab 2x4s. I want to make sure that they're, safe, and they'll keep the products organic, and nothing would leach out.
Because we're kind of psycho with that.
Yeah, a little bit.
Well, yeah. And, or you can buy like galvanized steel. Like anything that, as long as it has an open bottom, because you want to be able to
drain.
You want it to drain, and you also kind of want the symbiotic relationship between the soil and the ground and the bugs and everything getting in there.
Right.
Instead of people like that put down landscape fabric or something to block it, then you've just basically made a big pot.
Right.
As opposed to like a bed where there's, you want worms in there. You want all that good stuff in there.
Did we do that?
Yeah, we left it open.
Okay, I thought so. We have 2 cedar boxes, and so we always go into the gardening season with high hopes. We put cucumber plants in there. I got a starter from one of my favorite local farms around here. And then I just like planted some seeds, and the Tulsi grew like no problem. Of course, mint always comes back. The cucumbers did okay. I got a couple. I probably could have got way more if I actually gave it some TLC, but it did pretty good. But the others, I'm like, okay. So I love what you do because you also consult gardens for people. So I was like, when I'm ready for that, like I'm calling you because I need that. It's so much work. It's so much knowledge. And even like you said, even the most experienced lifelong gardeners don't even know everything. So I'm like, oh my gosh, how am I going to be able to do all this?
Well, I think, well, thank you. And I also do coaching where I can go like however many times that you want, like once a month or twice a month or once a season, to just kind of help you. Like, this is the best way to prune tomatoes or cucumbers. I mean, there's pruning of cucumbers too. That's also makes them more productive and less crazy.
Right.
So it's just kind of sharing along the way to kind of give people support when they just feel like because it is overwhelming. It was overwhelming for me. And quite frankly, I killed a lot of stuff. So, so you can't be afraid to fail. That's what it is. You can't be afraid that things don't do well.
Right.
Then you won't like that. People say, I don't have a green thumb.
That's okay, right?
Right.
Yeah.
The reason that came from, my friend of mine just told me that the term came from actually getting your hands dirty in the soil and touching the leaves, because I don't like to always wear gloves and my hands are like green.
Yeah.
That's where it comes from. You have to actually go out and do it.
Right.
I do that. I do all the yard work with just no gloves, even no shoes too, but just to catch the energy from the earth. It's therapeutic for me. For sure. I think it's probably the same for a lot of people.
Absolutely.
And there's certain things that you get from the soil that's like really good for your immune system in your body. Yeah. Like just from even having your hands in the soil.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
And for women, it makes your nails really strong too.
Really?
Yes. So I always had really strong nails. It was like I always had my hands dirty. I don't wear nail polish, but
I wish I knew that when I used to go get gel nails like every 2 weeks, and then I ruined my nails and I was like, how do I make these strong again? So now I know if I ever go through that phase again, just be in soil regularly.
Replace the salon with the garden.
Yes, I love that so much. So let's talk about soil quality and sunlight. They're super important for any garden, of course. And so how can beginners figure out what their best setup is? Like, what if their front and backyard is shady?
Well, there are things that will grow in the shade. It depends if it's full shade or not. It's kind of just looking at your land and seeing the sun and seeing how the rain falls. Where does it pool up? Does it just distribute equally? Does it sink into the soil? Where's the windy side? Where's the north side? So you want to plant, you want like as much sun as possible. So like south or southeast and west. But I put stuff in my backyard, which is also north facing. In the heat of the summer, lettuce is also good because it will want some shade and it won't bolt. Like, so in my front yard, it will bolt, but then in my backyard, it's got the shade of trees and stuff. So that will last longer.
Okay.
So it's kind of figuring it out. I think one of the things that when people come to our house for like garden tours and says, I never have luck with tomatoes. And I'm like, how much sun do you have? And they're like, oh, we have a lot of sun. I'm like, do you have a lot of sun though? So people think that like in the middle of the summer, it's high noon and their yard's full of light. It's sunny, but that's only for like maybe an hour or two. Yeah. So tomatoes are kind of a high maintenance plant. So needs 6 to 8 hours of like strong sun to survive. So That's important to kind of figure out what your limitations are based on your sun. So you might not be able to grow tomatoes if you don't have a lot of sun, but there are other things like radishes and carrots and other like sweet potatoes and things like that you might be able to grow without a lot of sun.
And that makes me think too, like with foodscaping and just talking about like the neighborhood and communities, what a great way that you could just like trade things.
Right.
Kind of like what they did back in the old days.
Yes. Yes. Or if like people, like we threw 2 peach trees in that hell strip too. So my husband's thinking was the squirrels would go after that instead of eating all the ones in our backyard.
Yeah, it's a distraction.
Yeah. It's like, look over here, shiny keys.
Yeah.
But I don't know if that's going to work. But, the other thing is that wouldn't it be great if you people in the neighborhood could just pick peaches?
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's like, we could feed so many people if we all just kind of grew food as much as possible. Or if the municipalities kind of, instead of planting, bread for pears, which are horrible, that planted an actual pear tree.
Yeah.
Something that grew fruit.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Do you hear that, people? Let's do it.
Yeah.
Let's all get together and do it.
I remember I spent in my early years in South Florida, and there was orange trees and lemon trees. And so you run around the neighborhood, you could just stop and have an orange.
That's great.
I loved it.
Yeah.
Love to see more of that.
I know. And even I'm sure you probably know, like, or maybe had that experience in New York too with apple trees. It's just really cool. I also saw, like, when I went to California, I know California, you can grow like anything there.
Yeah, they have a great growing season.
Yeah. And they had avocado and lemon trees in the yard. I was like, oh, how cool would it be? Because I love avocados and lemons. Like, how cool would it be to just like go and grab one off the tree?
Well, you can grow lemons here. But
are they hard?
It's like a tropical plant. So it's a little bit high maintenance. But I have a couple lemon trees and I put them out in my patio. They're in pots and I put them out in my patio, start them in shade and then slowly bring them into the sun. And it's funny, in the winters when they start flowering and fruiting, it just takes like 3 months for a lemon to like form. It just seems so slow, which is why like if you have a big tree, it's fine. But if you have like a little tree in a pot, it's like, lemon's taking forever. But you can do it. I have grown lemons. Key limes are pretty easy to grow here.
Do you have to cover it in the wintertime?
You either have to bring it inside, you can bring it in the garage and let it go dormant, or it's not gonna withstand a harsh frost. So it would have to be like in a enclosed patio of some sort.
Okay.
Yeah.
It could probably take the cool temperatures. I used to I did this in New York with tropical plants too. Just kind of let it go dormant, cut it back, and just water it enough to keep it alive, but let it just kind of sleep. And then in the spring, just start feeding it and watering it.
Okay, great.
Nice. Yeah. And I did have a question too about soil. So I know there's a lot that goes into soil. It's like basically the most important thing. So can you explain like how the easiest way for a beginner to get healthy soil, like with composting? And then also I was curious about what things to look for in bagged soil, if you just have to kind of go that route.
You're right. The soil is the most important part, because I always say it's like I'm not making a garden, I'm making soil. And then the garden comes.
Yeah, it's a good way to look at it.
We did the wood chipping. And if you like Google Back to Eden gardening, it's kind of that whole thing where you just change the soil by wood chipping, because wood chipping breaks down. It breaks down the nutrients. And within like 3 years, we changed our soil. What didn't take that long.
Okay.
So we were planting in beds, but we were wood chipping all around the beds, all around the property, and got rid of the grass. And that completely transformed our soil. And now it's like you can just stick a shovel anywhere and there's black, rich soil.
No kidding.
We transformed it, leaving the leaves. I know that's people hear it every fall, but I don't know. People love to bag their leaves.
Yeah.
It's like you're making extra work. They break down so quickly. It's one of the quickest things to break down are leaves. And it's like, if they're not going to kill your grass grows dormant in the winter. And it's great for the insects too. Like, think about it. There's all these, the fireflies, and there's a bunch of bees that live underground. That's where they nest, and that's where they have eggs. So they come up from the ground. The more we keep ruining the soil and putting pesticides and fertilizers and all that stuff, we're ruining their homes. And that's why people don't see fireflies like we used to when we were kids.
And that whole problem with bees too.
Right. And there's so many other, like there's tons of, like we all think of honeybees. Honeybees aren't even native to here. There's so many other native bees that we're killing with Mosquito Joe and all those pesticides, which don't work to get rid of mosquitoes either. So
yeah.
The thing about bugs is there's life cycles. So you can't just, like, if you kill the adults, they're still like larvae. And it's the one thing I've learned from with chickens too. It's like if you're treating something, you can't, like if you're treating for mites, you have to find out what kind of mite it is, and you have to find out what the life cycle is, because it has laid the eggs already. So you're going to have to treat something probably 2 weeks later, So it's important to know what you're dealing with. But with the soil, that's one way to do it. You don't have to do your whole yard like I did, but say there was like a patch that you want to be able to like plant in. Just mulching leaves, wood chips, not the bag stuff that you buy in the store, but like stuff you get from an arborist, or all natural, if you can get all natural wood chips. By leaving the leaves and leaving all the debris and that kind of stuff, that also is composting. Yeah. It's just like it's breaking down. It's all the same thing. It's breaking down.
Yeah.
And making a compost pile is fantastic, and it's easy to do, and you don't need equipment for it. And you can make it really hard, where you're like, I need this much brown stuff and this much green stuff, and I want to make it hot, so I have a thermometer. You can do that, or you can do the lazy composting like we do and just kind of throw everything in there and have a bunch of composters, and then it will break down, and then you just take it from the bottom, and there's this great soil in there that you can add to your raised beds.
Right. And how do you keep animals and things like that away from a compost pile?
Well, if you buy like a commercial one or any kind of one with a cover, if you're doing it on your property and it's not covered, then you will run the risk of getting possums and raccoons and animals that are looking for easy food.
This is how psycho I am, though, because then the word that comes to my mind is microplastics. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is so hot here.
It should be food safe.
Okay.
So there's a lot of like high density polyethylene that's food safe. You can get things that are rated food safe. Like I have that for my compost, or my rain barrels, the chickens, the water bar, that's all food safe.
Right. I actually was just reading about that, not having anything to do with gardening. It was about a washer I was looking at that had a polyethylene, like the little middle thing. And yeah, so I guess it just depends on like the temperature that it heats up to. And very rarely does it heat up to the point where that material would actually release microplastics.
Right.
That makes sense. What is something about growing food at home that completely surprises people?
I think it's the taste.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's a taste. I don't think people realize how nutrient dense and how flavorful the food that you grow is. That, and the other thing is, we were talking about people don't know where their food comes from. We do like garden tours. We've been doing this for years. And I remember we had onions growing. And onions you don't really bury, you kind of half bury. So they're like, they come out on the ground. So you can see them. People are like, what is that? It's like, it's an onion. Like people don't even recognize food when it's growing the way it's supposed to grow in the ground.
Yeah.
Asparagus is another one that people don't realize what it looks like. And the little tips that you buy, that's exactly what it looks like when it comes out of the ground. So I think that's one thing. They're surprised at the taste. And also I think how easy some things are to grow. Like, again, everybody gets intimidated by it. It's not intimidating. You just have to start. That's
really good advice. That was one of the reasons why I really want to have you on, because that's what you are wanting to try to, make gardening approachable and accessible for people. And I do get intimidated by it a lot. So that's really good to know.
I know when I started and I wanted to grow tomatoes, I didn't know what I wanted to grow. I know I didn't really care for tomatoes. So that was kind of why tomatoes became like my crop, because I didn't really like them. I never put them on sandwiches. They didn't have any taste to me.
Right.
And I started growing tomatoes. I got like a seed catalog, and I've gotten like 19 different varieties of tomatoes, and these dark tomatoes and yellow tomatoes and all. And it was great, because that's how I discovered what did well, what I liked, how big it went, whether it cracked, how it behaved. And unfortunately with tomatoes, you could have like a good year and have a bad year.
Yeah.
So the weather here is so unpredictable, and it makes it hard to garden in Raleigh. Or in this zone. You just kind of like do the spaghetti thing. Like throw everything out there and see what I like.
Yeah.
And now I have like my core 5 tomatoes that I always grow. And then like I'll always introduce a couple of new ones.
Tomatoes is great too, because you can make so many things with tomatoes for all 4 seasons.
Right.
Like salsa in the summer, tomato sauce when you want something heavier with pasta. It's great.
Right.
I was thinking, I love the idea of just starting and seeing what sticks, right? Throwing spaghetti at the wall and seeing what comes up, and then seeing what you actually enjoy eating as a family too.
Yeah. And then one thing I discovered with tomatoes was, a lot of people can't eat them because they're very acidic.
Nightshades.
And there's certain types of tomatoes that don't have as much acidity and don't bother people that are normally bothered by them. There's some varieties that are so flavorful, like really flavorful grape tomatoes in a salad or a pasta salad. The tomatoes are either determinate or indeterminate. Indeterminate are the ones that grow nice and big and like 8 feet tall and just kind of go everywhere. Determinate ones stay short, but they turn to fruit all at once, which is the ones that you usually make sauce from. There's somebody from Raleigh. It's called Epic Tomato, and his name is Craig LaHulia, and he developed a bunch of determinate tomatoes that were larger. So the one I'm growing is yellow dwarf, but it's a regular sized tomato, but the plant stays nice and short.
So it's a little bit more manageable.
You have to look that up. Epic Tomato.
Yes.
I remember that one.
Yes.
When you see a client for the first time, or you're talk coaching them or helping them build out their foodscape, where do you usually go with water? Do you usually look at like building a hose system, or do you go straight to rainwater collection, that sort of thing?
It depends what they want, and it depends on how big of an area it is.
Yeah. It's always one of the things that intimidates me the most too, especially around here, because it can be so hot and things get so dry so quick.
Yeah.
And if it's not specifically native to this area and can survive that, we lose stuff all the time.
Right.
You might just forget for a couple of days to go out and make sure it's watered.
Right. And especially in raised beds and things like that, where it's not in the ground, so it is going to get drier quicker, especially if they're taller. There's irrigation that you can do. There's drip irrigation. There's soaker hoses, which is a good way. Soaker hoses are a great way to kind of like snake around.
Yeah.
You just have to make sure that your faucet to the house isn't leaking. You don't want to add to your water bill.
Yeah.
We did rain barrels and we connected them, and we have 2 500-gallon cisterns that we take from the roof. Now luckily here in Raleigh, a rain reward system, so people across the country should check their municipalities, because we didn't know about it. We found it out from another gardener. So that's great for us, because you don't want to have to keep watering. And I know that becomes a chore for people. And even I have a client now that's like, I just had a hard time watering everything.
Yeah.
Because you're like working and you come home and you're like, oh, everything's drooping.
As days go by, I'm like, wow, I didn't even realize it. It's been a week now. Haven't even looked at it,
I can barely keep track of our indoor plants.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, and it's best to water in the morning. So if you water earlier in the morning and not like in the middle of the day where it'll evaporate. And I think the other thing is, if you are watering by hand or by hose or something like that, is you're not really supposed to get like food plants wet. I mean, obviously when it rains, they get wet, but that's also where you get like mildew and things like that. But it's not terrible. I don't think anyone really waters deeply enough. For instance, with tomatoes, if you water really deeply when they're first starting out, the roots will grow down and down and down.
They're going looking for that water.
Yeah. So you won't have to water them as often as they get bigger. Once the roots get nice and strong, it'll seek out water down below, when you won't have to constantly water the surface. Because what we do is we look at it and it's like, oh, that looks dry, but the plant is fine. So we kind of teach them, like, go find water. You're on your own now. Go find water.
Yeah.
So we don't have to baby them.
Right. Yeah. That's a great tip. So do you use a water filter? Okay. And so you can just find that at Home Depot or something?
Yeah. We use for the hose water, we do use a filter, just because there's a lot of chemicals and things like that. The rainwater, I mean, people will say, well, it's hitting the asphalt and that's those microparticles, but they're going to separate in your rain barrel. They're not going to be in the water. Plus we have solar panels. So most of that is hitting, the water's coming from the solar, it's hitting the solar panels. It's not hitting the roof. Of course, as we enter the pollinating here in this area.
Yeah.
Can't wait.
Yeah. When we take the water from the rain barrel, you could smell it. It's like, and my solar panels are like a coat of like yellow and green. Oh.
That's coming too.
I'm
Just
already
probably
crying.
a couple days from now, we're screwed.
Like 2 days ago, I was like, when I come in contact with them, I'm not crying. I swear, it's just the allergies are starting.
Yeah, it's bad. But the other thing with plants is mulching the base. And that's another great thing about wood chips, is if you mulch the base, and I do this with tomatoes for a couple of reasons, is you mulch it keeps the water in. And the great thing about wood chips is that when they get wet, it keeps the soil nice and wet. But as it dries, it releases that water back into the soil. So it's it serves a lot of purposes, instead of just being, oh, it looks nice. And also when it rains, the dirt doesn't kick up on the plant. So if the dirt kicks up on the back of the tomato leaves, it can get bacteria and can get a bacterial infection. Same thing with basil. So if you mulch around it, then you kind of mitigate that. Not guarantee that you won't get any kind of bacterial infection, but it mitigates that splashback that you get from the dirt.
Okay.
So mulching around anything, even whether it's in the ground, and that's part of companion planting or guild planting, which is a little bit different, but you're using other plants as kind of a ground cover that will keep the roots shaded and help with that as well, not just with insect control, which is normally what we think of.
No, that's great. That's a good tip. Mm-hmm. And what is guild planting?
Guild planting it's more of, companion planting is when you plant like marigolds and basil with tomatoes, because it helps, like the marigolds help deter pests and they have similar needs. Guild planting is usually around a fruit tree or a nut tree, and it's more of a permanent ecosystem.
Okay.
So the plants kind of work together to help the tree, whether it's like pest control, ground cover. Like say you have peach tree, you plant comfrey, which has a very deep taproot, and that will bring nutrients up. And with comfrey, you can also chop the leaves and use that as mulch. It's a great garden plant, actually, for people.
Yeah.
And it's a really good pollinator. It also attracts pollinators. So guild planting differs in that it's more of an ecosystem, and it's done usually with perennials around a fruit or nut tree.
Okay, wonderful.
I want to do a really quick game. Okay, so it's called Plant or Pass, and I'm going to throw...
I love it.
Okay. Are you ready?
Edition.
Do you need
ready.
coffee? All right.
I love this.
I'm going to throw out the name of a plant. Some of them are common and some are a little unexpected. And you tell us whether it's worth planting in a home foodscape or if it's a hard pass.
Okay.
In this beginner edition. Okay, so...
Yeah, beginner edition.
Okay, so either plant it, which is great for beginners, proceed with caution, or hard pass.
Okay.
Tomatoes.
I say plant it. You got to try it.
Blueberries.
Plant it.
Mint.
Proceed with caution because it will spread.
Yeah, we found that out for sure. Yeah, it's crazy. I can't keep it under control.
Lavender.
I would say, for the beginner, I would say pass. It's too hard here.
Kale.
Oh, definitely plant.
Watermelon.
Proceed with caution.
Fruit trees.
That's too vague.
Depends on the fruit.
Yeah, I would say, you know what? I would always just say plant it. If it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out.
Yeah, plant it and see what happens. And last one is zucchini.
I would say plant that.
How easy is it to grow watermelon in this area anyway?
It's not that it's not hard. It's just that to get those big watermelons, it takes a long time.
Yeah.
And during that time, so much can happen. I've had ones get really, really, really big and then just crack right before then. Or the deer are like, oh, what's this? And they stomp on it and eat it. I would say if you were going to grow watermelon, do personal sized ones because they don't take as long to grow. But also last year I had a whole bed of cantaloupe and they were beautiful, beautiful cantaloupe. I was so excited. And then we got tons of rain in the middle of the summer, which is unusual. Mm-hmm. And I went out to go look at them and they all split open.
No.
So the thing with watermelons, like when they're starting to almost be ripe, you don't want to water them. But when Mother Nature doesn't listen to that, then it's hard. So it's a little bit more challenging, even though it's such a great fruit. But you can buy that locally in season.
Yeah.
So you can find that at your farmers markets and stuff like that. And if you're going to try it at home, I would say use the smaller personal sized ones.
Okay.
That's a good tip.
But as far as most of the vegetables that you grow, it's like, why not try it? Try things.
Yeah.
Right. You never know. Even if you just get one cucumber, right? It's a win.
Right. And everybody wants to be like the best at everything right away. And I'm like that. I'm the same way.
Me
so
too.
I get it. Like I get really mad when it doesn't work out and I can't do things and stuff. So I get that. But it's so important to just keep going.
Yeah.
And sometimes bell peppers are harder, but hot peppers are easier, so you got to just keep trying.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, just through trial and error too, you can perfect whatever your favorite crops are. It's not like you have to have like every single thing at the grocery store.
Right. And try like weird stuff too. Like cucamelons, which are little tiny, they look like little watermelons, but they're like in the cucumber family.
Yeah.
Try something weird, that's what we do. We should try like weird stuff all the time, and just grow crops that you wouldn't normally think of, but that's like, oh, this is like there's walking kale and there's molehia, which is a Egyptian spinach, and it grows very big and it's kind of woody. And it turns out it's a trap plant for us, which is a plant that the Japanese beetles love. So if we plant Molehia, they'll like hack that and not the plants that we want to like harvest from.
So the word permaculture, it can sound really intimidating. Mm-hmm. Can you explain that in like simple terms?
It's actually permanent agriculture. That's where the word came from. And it was developed basically by following the land. Bill Mollison, who kind of coined the phrase, he's Australian, he looked at Aborigine tribes and how they would grow food and how they would grow plants and how they would basically garden. And it's taking into consideration all those things like the sun, the wind, and it's working with nature and not against it.
I was just thinking those words in my head.
And that's really how you become successful. And there's like 3 tenets, which is like care for the earth, care for people, and share the surplus. So it's giving back, and it's finding what goes well together, finding how to redirect water, like working with the land, and animals are usually a part of that. It's really trying to find out how your land works, where you would situate, if you were getting a piece of land, where would you situate your house? Where does the sun come? Where would fruit trees go? Where does the water pool? Where does the water go when it's like a heavy rain? They say like stand out in a huge rainstorm and see what happens on your property. And all those you can do on a small scale too. So it's kind of just working with nature.
What role do pollinators play in the landscaping?
Well, everything. I mean, without pollinators, we don't have food. Mm-hmm. That's it. And it's not just bees. It's so many other pollinators. There's so many insects, and I couldn't even begin to describe and name them all, but things like hoverflies that look like bees, but they're not. There's beneficial parasitic wasps. There's all sorts of butterflies and cabbage white butterflies, and not just, we know the monarchs, we know the swallowtails, but there's so many other kinds. So they all play a role in diversifying the garden. So if you plant tomatoes near each other, which you usually do, like you plant like a row of tomatoes, but technically the seeds you might get from that tomato might have been cross-pollinated. Or sometimes they call it open pollination, which is fine. I know I think it was So True Seed, which is a local, I think a lot of times they'll say like open pollinated.
Yes, or hybrid.
Mm-hmm. And that could be just because mm-hmm. they were grown near each other and when they harvest the seeds. And I collect all my seeds, so you might not have the true plant, but it's close enough. Or it might be something really good too, because we all know that mutts are good. So
yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes.
Exactly.
So that type of thing.
How can someone make their yard more welcoming to like birds, bees, and all the beneficial insects?
I would do a research on what is native in your area. We don't want to introduce non-native species. So we want to concentrate on the native plants. Here in the South, Joe Pyeweed is a great pollinator plant. It gets butterflies and moths and bees and all sorts of flying insects. Comfrey, again, I mentioned that pretty much grows everywhere in the United States. Echinacea, purple coneflower, black-eyed Susans, things like that, all that kind of stuff that people are used to seeing. They're great pollinator plants. So I think just find out what's native, because it's so important to get the right insects and to have the right balance. And even though, that butterfly bush looks beautiful and will attract butterflies, it's not the right thing to feed the butterflies that we need to feed. I mean, if you're going to have that, make sure you have milkweed for monarchs or butterfly weeds or other kinds of type of milkweeds. Monarchs will feed off of other plants, but they'll only lay eggs on the milkweed. So to find out things that support in your area, that's the most important thing.
Okay, that's good. So I saw on your website that you offer dog-friendly garden consultation, which I thought was really thoughtful because most people have dogs. So are there plants that people love but should never plant where dogs frequent?
So it depends on if your dog eats the plants, but there are things that are poisonous if they tend to eat plants, like castor oil. Castor plants are actually used like ornamentally pretty, but I wouldn't plant those. Carolina jasmine, I think, the flowers can be poisonous. A sago palm, which I know like my neighbor has like 2 of them, which is really like a house plant that can adapt to here. And those are poisonous, but it depends on what you're like. For me, the dog friendly is more like growing things that your dog will like.
Yeah.
Or my dog's going to go in the bed. It's like, give it a reason not to. It's kind of like working with the behavior of the dog, what dogs like to do. I like to have a digging area for my dog. So she has a place that she can just dig get that out. You can also grow certain grasses that dogs like. And dogs don't usually like things unless they know they're supposed to like it. So if you don't feed them strawberries from your strawberry patch, they'll probably leave your strawberries alone because they're not appealing to them. There's not much as far as veggies that are bad for dogs.
Yeah, that's what I figured.
Yeah.
More like fruity stuff like grapes and things like that.
Yeah.
Avocado.
Yeah, exactly. Well, we can't grow avocado.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And avocado is really just the pit is the problem. It's not the flesh of the avocado.
Oh, well, that's good. So we
Yeah,
don't
I didn't
have
know
to
that.
be so psycho about our kids dropping avocado on the floor.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I don't think the avocado. Like they can't really have onions and garlic, but they're not going to want to eat that either. And it's kind of like people say that with chickens too. It's like, well, is this poisonous to chickens? They're great at like realizing what nature really is supposed to be like when you have backyard chickens, because they kind of just like, they're not going to eat that anyway. That's unappetizing for them.
They have intuition.
They do.
So what's one simple dog-friendly change that any garden owner can make this weekend?
I would say grow something for your dog. Like my dog loves beans, and beans are so easy to grow. So plant something just for your dog to eat.
That's a great idea.
That is a great idea.
I love it.
Okay. So what are some easy wins that could make a really big difference early on?
Well, I think, again, like go back to planting lettuce. Lettuce is easy and everybody eats salads. You can grow kale. Kale, even though it likes the cool weather, you can still harvest the small leaves. So I would say get out, grow some lettuce.
Yeah, herbs are easy.
Herbs are easy. I mean, I use parsley with my cooking all the time. And I have a garden, a little raised bed that's got a bottom to it. It's out on my patio. And I have it so I can just go out my kitchen door and it's 10 feet from the porch. Put those where you're going to use them.
I need one. I need those. I need like 10 of them with all the herbs, especially mint, because I use so many herbs.
Yeah.
I love it.
And mint is, I know mint is like, it gets invasive and everything because the way it grows, but we still have mint on our property.
Yeah. We do too. And it deters insects and mosquitoes.
Mm-hmm.
It does help with the mosquitoes. I've noticed that.
Yeah.
After having it for a couple years, right on the outside of our deck, actually.
Oh, that's great.
It's been great.
So what's one biggest mistake new gardeners make that you wish people would stop doing?
I think the biggest mistake is that they think they don't have enough light. And then they're like, well, I can't grow anything. The other thing is, it's like you had mentioned this before too, about like bagged soil and things like that. The stuff that they sell for raised beds, it's all very woody and mulchy.
Yeah.
Things like that. It's not really good. It's like you have to realize a lot of the soil bags that you're looking at is just marketing.
Yeah.
It's not, you want something rich and black and loamy, and you want to see, those little white specks you see, that's vermiculite, which is a natural occurring substance. It's not styrofoam, even though it feels like that helps aerate it. And so I think it's just kind of like, don't buy into this is for raised beds and this is for this.
Yeah.
Yes.
I buy the stinky stuff.
Yeah. I always think too, microplastics in those bags when they're just sitting out in the 100-degree weather. I'm like, no.
Yeah. I understand why people have to use bags. It's not, but I think the other thing is just try to get something, like if you're going to do a raised bed with soil, I have a bag of mushroom compost. It's like $8 or something, $10, and mix that in there. I just don't feel like there's enough nutrients in a lot of these bag soil. So I get a soil amendment or something like that, whether it's kind of compost or.
Well, that's a really good tip. So if you're starting out with just a raised bed, you just want to get going, you have to buy bag soil maybe because it's too much to go make your own soil.
Mm-hmm.
Get the mushroom compost and mix it up, get something else to put in there.
Yeah.
And be in a better spot.
Yeah. And also I'm curious, what if somebody feels too intimidated to make their soil for their first year, but then they don't want to get the bagged soil? Is there any place?
Is that person in the room with us?
Yeah.
This is a personal question here. Is there anywhere locally that you can just go and pick up a truckload of soil or have it delivered?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So there's Soil 3. They're out of Cary. They call them the big yellow bag. We use them, and that's composted soil. And they'll drop this big, I don't know if it's 3 cubic yards in a bag, wherever you want it, like in your backyard. They're amazing. They come in a big truck, and then they have this little skidster or whatever. They pick it up and they put it exactly where you ask for. You can put an X there. They're terrific. If you need a lot of soil, garden centers a lot of times will have things, I think Mulch Masters here and stuff will drop a truckload of soil. We used to do that. We used to split it with our neighbor. They'd pour it in the, like right in the corner of our yards, and she would take what she needed for her beds, and then we would take the rest, and we'd split the cost.
That's a good idea. Community.
Yeah. Gotta share.
Yeah. See, that's what makes it. That's the other thing about gardening. If you can get a bunch of people to garden around you, then you definitely can share resources like that.
Yeah.
That's really cool. And of course, here's my crunchy side of course, my psycho crunchy side.
That's okay.
So when you get any of those services, how do you know that there's not like Roundup in it or any type of chemicals in it? Do you just ask them?
Yeah, you have to kind of research those. So you can buy compost or soil from the city here, but they're also collecting stuff from people's yards that clearly probably use chemicals or have gardeners and things like that. So I don't like to do that. But garden centers and Soil Free, the big yellow bag, they will say that they don't have that kind of, you have to kind of look at the different, you have to look at what they say and not just get it from your municipality, because they're doing it from all the leaves and all the stuff that people.
Yeah, it's got stuff all over it.
Yeah.
That's what I always worried about. Okay, so let's do a lightning round. Okay, favorite herb to grow?
Parsley.
Okay, garden tool you can't live without?
My clippers.
Raised beds or in ground?
I would say raised beds.
Favorite pollinator?
You mean plant?
Yeah.
Oh, actually mountain mint is really good for it's an amazing plant.
I have to look into that. Annual or perennial?
Perennial.
Favorite fruit tree?
Peach.
That. Front yard or backyard garden?
Oh, both.
I was like,
all around, front, back, and sides.
Wherever you can.
One plant everyone should grow.
So if it's a pollinator, I would say grow either comfrey or Joe Pye weed, depending on your area. For like a veggie, everybody should just grow lettuce. I mean, it's so easy.
Yeah.
I'm keep going back to that.
And you always use lettuce.
It's easy.
One plant you wish people would stop planting?
There's Nadina, which is a shrub. It's not native, and it's just killing the ecosystem.
Nadina, what does that look like?
It's almost looks like little bamboo. It's a dense plant. You'll see it in subdivisions like this all the time. And I mean, it gets flowers and things like that, but it's so bad. That and like the Bradford pear, where they'll actually come and take it out for you because it's just so bad to the ecosystem.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Okay, so I just want to talk about Ralstead Foodscapes. So who's your ideal client?
You? No.
Yeah.
Yeah, I could totally see that. Yeah.
No, I mean, I don't think I have an ideal client. I think it's just somebody, because I have a client that doesn't have the time to get involved but wants to grow food for her family. I guess maybe my ideal client is someone that likes the coaching, that wants to which seems almost like self-defeating, because it's like if I teach them to grow, they'll never use me again, but that's okay. And I think they will, because there's still so much to do.
Yes. And also
right?
you're always wanting to add more every year.
Right.
Yeah.
And I just want to empower people to be able to grow their own food. So I love the idea of that. I also give advice and consultations on keeping chickens and gardening with chickens, because if anybody's ever had chickens, like, they dig up everything. They much worse than a dog.
That's still my dream.
Yeah, they dig everything. So like, you have to protect. I have all these creative ways to protect plants, and I'm able to grow in the yard where the chickens mostly are, and then I just give them other spaces. And they're great for getting rid of weeds and insect control. Like, I don't have that many Japanese beetles anymore because of the chickens. We treated for them as well milky spore, which you can put down, which is organic. You put it down, and that kind of just hurts the Japanese beetles because their larvae is in the ground.
Okay.
Also, like, I don't get mad when I see moles and molehills, because they eat the pests underground.
Yeah.
So that's fine with me. So I think it's the coaching. It's somebody that really wants to learn, because I love to. I mean, it's like chickens and gardens and dogs. I could talk all day.
Yeah. I love it too.
Love it. Okay. So when you walk into someone's yard for the first time, what are you looking for?
Well, that also depends. But usually before I go, I look at their property on Google Earth and see where the sun is, what kind of sun. So I'll look and see where, and you can look at that. And then when you're actually there, it's like, okay, so I see that you put a garden here, but you're getting shaded from the house next door. So, that's going to determine what we can grow. So I think I would look at the sun, because that's pretty much the most important part. And then if they have nothing set up, so that I would do like, this is where I would put a bed, or this is where I would start, or pollinator patch, which I also do. Like, this would be a good place for that. And then I would talk to them about how much time they want to spend. What is their day like? What do they want to, what do they eat? What do they grow? So sun, where the water is, like, are they going to be able to use a hose? Would they be able to do drip irrigation? Would they be willing to do a rain barrel? So that kind of thing.
So do you help DIYers or only full installs?
Oh, no, definitely help DIYers. I like to say I meet people where they are. So if you want hands off, then I'll do hands off. But if you want to learn, or you want to, I'll help you source materials to buy it, but build your own bed, or where you can find things. After doing this for so long, it's like, these are the products I love. These are the things that make my life easier. So if I can give that to somebody else, why not share all that?
Yes.
That's great.
Let's not make it so complicated.
Yeah.
The one thing is, we do like an open house every year, usually around early June, late May, early June. And I'll announce it and everything, but it's just so people can come and look and see the garden and tour it, and we'll answer questions and kind of give you free advice, and might go home with some plants and things like that.
Oh, that sounds awesome.
Chickens, yeah.
I'd love to come to that this year.
We need to do that.
Absolutely.
Yeah. It's a lot of fun. We enjoy it, and we didn't do it for a couple of years, and it was like, seemed like it was a lot of work, but it's like, I don't make it look perfect. I kind of gave up that, like, everything's gonna look perfect.
I think with anything too, even outside of gardening, people appreciate just like the reality, the authenticity of it, and what to like realistically expect. So I think that's great.
And what I see, people aren't seeing. It's kind of like how we're more critical of ourselves when we look in the mirror. And when I look at my garden, I was like, I see the mistakes, or I see the weeds, and I see this shouldn't be here, and this looks terrible. And people are just like, wow, look at this,
Right.
Yeah.
I can't believe it. You have it.
Yeah.
You did it.
People see the abundance, and they see, what it looks like. So I don't worry about that anymore.
Yeah. No,
Good.
that's good. Okay. So do you have a favorite book or resource that you'd like to share?
There's a couple of books that are from Robin Wall Kimmerer. And she's a Native American, heritage, and she wrote The Serviceberry and Braiding Sweetgrass. And they're kind of about the gift community. So like growing things and sharing it and giving back to the land and stop taking so much. It's kind of like those kind of lessons that the indigenous people have. It's just like, you grow, you don't take more than you need, and you share. Those are great books to get into the right mindset of how we constantly take and take and take from the earth and not give back. If you want to learn about permaculture, just research Bill Mollison. There's other ones as well. So those are great resources. It's hard. Don't get on TikTok and find gardening hacks. Don't do that, because those are things that are probably not made for real gardeners. That's just made for TikTok and marketing stuff like that. Yes, there's great resources out there. So those are my faves.
All right. And then what's your best crunchy wellness tip?
Meditate.
That's a very
perfect. Right up Marguerite's alley.
That's what I would say. That's what I do every morning before I get started. It's just take 10 minutes and meditate.
Excellent. Okay. So where can people connect with you?
My website is ralsteadfoodscapes.com, and I'm on Instagram. And I do free 15-minute discovery calls. So if you fill out any forms, I have all the different forms, whether it's like chicken friendly, dog friendly, consulting or coaching, whatever you want. You don't have to commit to anything. If you fill out a form, I will give you a 15-minute discovery call and see if we're a good fit, and see what your goals are and how to move forward from there. And I have the open garden house tour, probably beginning of June, usually like the first weekend of June. And I'm hoping to do some workshops. Where that may be, I'm not sure. I approached a couple of nurseries, so I might be at my house. So if you sign up, I will send an email, and you'll find out if I have like a workshop that you guys can come to, or people can come to.
That's awesome.
I love that. All right. Oh, and what's your Instagram handle?
It's Ralstead Foodscapes.
Perfect. All right. Well, guys, definitely check out the website. I thought that your services that you offer are awesome.
Thank you.
So definitely check it out, everyone who's local. And so thank you so much for being on the
thank
show.
you. I really enjoyed it. I had a lot of fun. I'm inspired now.
Okay.
This weekend I'll be in the backyard for sure.
I really appreciate you guys having me on, and I love what you're doing. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks so much for listening. If you'd like to follow along with us, you can find us on Instagram at CrunchyPod and at Unapologetically Crunchy. We have the same handles on TikTok too. And check out our websites at crunchypod.com and unapologeticallycrunchy.com. And if you have some tips and tricks you'd like to share with us, feel free to DM us or contact us on the website. And one more thing, if you love our podcast, please consider sharing with every single person you know who would love it. And leave us a review. Oh, and you can tell them to leave a review too. We are so beyond grateful for your support. Thank you so much. Peace, love, and crunch.